Vlogalogue, how you guys doing? I've come back out to the middle of the woods of New Hampshire because why the heck not, and there's only so many more times I'll be able to do this. So we've talked about jobs and selling yourself this past week. Unfortunately, Jocelyn couldn't make a video, but the four of us, the rest of us have. And Kevin started it off sort of saying that when you make the resume and you make the interview and all that, it's kind of part of the job. It's actually quite helpful when helping to select employees, which doesn't surprise me, considering if it wasn't helpful, then why would companies waste all this time and effort doing that? But it kind of harkens back, in my mind at least, to basically the whole concept of college in general. In many cases, a lot of what you do in college isn't necessarily ever going to help you with your job. Certainly some of the ways that you think, and certainly some of the actual things that you will learn will be very helpful, but all in all, like why you have to go and take gym classes, or why you have to go and take like general ed or arts classes, is just a matter of fulfilling your degree requirements. Because the whole concept of college in itself is, can you put yourself through these hoops? Can you be rigid and have a schedule? And can you accomplish this thing, which is not necessarily an easy thing to do. It takes 4 years for a bachelor's degree, at least. Associates is only 2, but it kind of sounds like that. Like, the fact that you're doing it isn't so much what you get out of it, but that you can prove you can do it. And that makes a lot of sense. But it doesn't make that easier. And then, of course, selling yourself in regards to the internet is also hard. But I think Kevin's right in that if what you're putting out there isn't, something that you want, like if you just want to hide it, like it's on the channel, good enough, people will find it maybe, then why are you putting it up there in the first place, I guess. Which I do and I do not agree with. There's some stuff that I think there have been times when I put up tons and tons and tons of stuff, and if I'd tried to sell every single video I put up there, it would not have gone well. It would have just been a massive delusion. It would just washed everyone away. Whereas, promoting only certain videos that I was exceptionally quite happy with was perhaps a more prudent move. Anyway, Niall was like, yes, everything is terrible, but just do it differently, because a big part of making an effective interview or an effective resume is that it can't just look like all the others. It can't blend in, which is very hard because everyone's trying not to blend in. So you have to, in my mind at least, you have to play a bit of reverse psychology. Be like, well, if everyone's trying to blend in, they're going to do this, so let's double back and do this. But then everyone else is thinking that as well, so let's go over here and do this. And I don't know, and then you wind up doing weird things like creating video resumes, which work once, and then they hit the tech blogs, and then everyone and their uncle tries them. Or you've had these people who, like, they apply to Facebook, and so they have a Facebook timeline as their resume, or they apply to Google, and they have a Google search result, or Yahoo, and they have a Yahoo search result page. Those work once. And because we're talking about them, they've already worked there once. And to do it now would just be copycat and uncreative. So it's very hard to stand out. There are ants everywhere, and I'm probably going to die, but whatever. That was tangential. But yeah. And then Luke was like, I don't know anything about jobs, but selling yourself online isn't that hard because you're distance. And I think that is the biggest reason why I actually find it easier to sell myself online than in real life, is that 100% this. And I think I talked about this a couple weeks ago, is that I'd rather be overbearing and then have people leave than to just drift apart, even though we are totally people that would enjoy hanging out. And that works with friends, and that works with, colleagues and all sorts of things, is that just, you gotta put energy into these things, and they add, you know, putting energy into your YouTube channel and your Twitter means, you know, selling yourself. And I guess I don't know. It doesn't make it hard. It doesn't make it not hard. But I don't know. I still don't like to do it, but I do. So there's that. All right, anyway, let's transition into a completely new and completely different topic for this next week, which is, what were you willing to give up for the good of everyone? Recently, there was a new Good Stuff playlist. If you haven't seen the Good Stuff, it's made by Craig Benzine or Wheezy Waiter, and basically his band, Drift Spawny Club, if you didn't know. And it's a channel I've supported for a very long time. It's linked in the description down below. But recently they made a new video about meat. And the reason I bring this up is because there's a very, very surprising statistic in it that I actually don't remember. But to make 1 pound of beef, like to grow a cow, to raise a cow, grow out of thin air or the ground, unfortunately, it takes like 1,500 gallons of water to make 1 pound of like beef you go to the store, which is insane. It's a mind-boggling amount of water that I totally believe, but holy cow, that's a lot of water. I apologize to everyone involved. Anyway, and that got me thinking down the track, like, so we're kind of hitting the rubber meets the road with global warming here. California is about to dry. I mean, it's a lot better than it was a couple of months ago, but it probably is going to just keep getting worse as time goes on in terms of being totally just dry. And California is a state of the United States, if you didn't know for some reason, which is a highly pompous thing to say as a United States citizen. California is one of our states. It's on the West Coast, and it's very dry and very hot there. And it's getting worse, and they have very severe droughts and no water, which actually leads to these. And this is very much tied in. You have like a lot of celebrities who live in California because that's where Hollywood is and that's where all the movies get made. And so they're spending exorbitant amounts of money to water their lawns, while farmers don't have the water they need to grow their crops. And so we are coming up on having to make some hard decisions about what we are willing to put time and effort and money and water and resources into when it comes to sort of the global stage. And I'm just curious what you guys are willing to give up. Are you willing to switch to a vegetarian lifestyle, even without, you know, meat that tastes like meat but is actually made of vegetables? Because, well, we don't have the resources, the fresh, clean water to be giving to cows? Or is that, like, simply a line too far? Are you willing to walk places instead of perhaps driving, or take public transportation, which is probably a better option because, you know, walking like 3 miles takes about an hour at average human walking pace, whereas a car takes a minute. At best. Well, at worst, well, no. Can't really say at best. You can drive a car at 3 miles an hour. Never mind. What are you, how far are you willing to go for the world, I suppose, for the greater good? Because these are questions we're going to have to start asking ourselves. And not even just financially even. I mean, we'll probably be able to afford, beef prices will probably go up, but I'm not sure how that'll relate to general inflation overall. So assuming that you can always afford it, would you you know, try to give it up for the good of the country. But of course, there's the other argument that, of course, if you give it up, then demand for the product goes down, and therefore the price for the product goes down, and therefore it becomes available to more people, and so what you didn't eat then just gets wind up getting eaten by someone else who can now afford it because you lowered demand. But of course, if we all gave it up, then it would stop getting produced. Or if a significant amount of us gave it up, that lower demand wouldn't necessarily correlate to lower cost, it would just lower the amount of production, which actually might raise costs as the economy of scale slides backwards. And because I'm not sure that I could. I might make different choices, and I try to make these choices anyway when they're available to eat locally. Like, if I walk through this woods about 2 miles in that direction, I will enter into a field of a cow farmer, who he farms mostly for dairy. But, like, I try to buy, and then just down the road is a cow farmer who doesn't farm mostly for dairy. So I try to, when at all possible, eat locally, which everyone claims is better, but, and around here, we don't have the water shortage problems. So, you know, I try to help that way, but I'm not sure that I could give up meat. I mean, obviously, if it was like a crisis situation, and suddenly, like, weather patterns have shifted so greatly that everywhere was a drought, might have to rethink it. But why are we growing cows in California where it's a drought? Why don't we just move them up north to Canada or something? I think there are other options at this point, and I think I'd rather explore those options than give up meat. But of course, there's other things like, we have our air conditioners on in the winter, or in the summer, because those draw a lot of electricity, and right now most of our electricity comes from carbon sources, and so that's speeding up global warming. So we're going to have to make these choices. What are you willing to give up? At this point, I'm not willing to give up much, to be totally honest. But I think that's going to have to change over the next 100 years. And I'm curious, and I'd be pretty willing to go solar. I'd be willing to make the financial investment in solar, and then eat vegetables, I guess. I could do that. That is something I could do, but I'm not ready to do that yet because I don't think it's necessary. I could totally live off vegetables, and I could totally live off electric from solar power. I'd love to live off electric from solar panel power. That's one of the things, once I get a job and have a house, or at least a landlord with a, like, can I put a solar panel on the roof? Sure, yeah. Because I think solar is a ton of wasted energy. It's a giant ball of fusion, not fission, sorry, I apologize to everyone. Fusion, that just gets wasted over most of the earth, most of the time. Anyway, this is very, very long, rambly video. I don't know how long it's been, but I look forward to the answers of what are you willing to give up now and in the future to help the global community. And with that, I'll see you next time. Bye, Vlogalogue!